I got the broadcast over the radio, the license number, and I immediately wrote it down, and then I set up a block where I thought they might be coming out. And we set up at Lancaster Hutchins and play and run. And I sit there about 5 minutes, and then I saw this vehicle approaching, and immediately I spotted the license. So I waited until he got on past, because I was by myself at the time, and I knew I might not be able to apprehend him by myself. So I waited and radioed for help. By that time we were at the Dairy Queen. We circled around the Dairy Queen and parked in front of Massey's Food Store. And as soon as they parked in front of Massey's Food Store, I had about 5 squads, and we were out on top of them.
I have to answer that. There are 2 factions in South America. There are the government and there are the Tupamaros. And neither faction has given an inch. My husband is between the 2. He's an innocent victim. He's a pawn. Neither side wants to give in. The Tupamaros have demanded a publication of a manifesto, a proclamation. The government says no. They still say no. Unless it has come out in the paper.
Herb, you were so much a part of the ball club that about whom we heard the word togetherness, and we've heard that applied to the Cowboys here in the last 2 or 3 weeks. Have you begun to sense anything similar to what you had in Green Bay?
Well, there's no doubt about it, Vern. The last 4 or 5 weeks, I've really sensed the same type of thing that we had going for us up in Green Bay, and that being confidence in each other and just working together as a team.
What brings it about, especially after the humiliation of the loss to St. Louis?
I think that has a lot to do with it. You know, we were humiliated by Minnesota and St. Louis, and I think each person went home and sat down and said to themselves, well, if I do the best job that I'm capable of doing, maybe my teammates will see it and they'll follow and pick up too. And that's the main thing.
It's very simple. If you're speeding as you drive by the installation where Orbis is situated, then your photograph is taken by the device. Not only does the camera catch the person driving the car, but very importantly, it reproduces the license plate. Everyone seated in the front seat is visible to the camera. And as a result, we would be able to trace the driver of the car or the owner of the car, should that ownership be different. But this will allow us then to immediately contact that driver and tell him of his excessive speed and our concern about that fact.
Do you issue a citation to the driver?
We don't plan to issue citations initially along Highway 303. We will, however, in the case of flagrant violations, call this to the attention of the driver. Certainly if there is a continuation of speeding by the same driver day after day, then we'll talk to him.
The purpose of a joint airport zoning board is to set up a legal entity according to existing state law to adopt regulations to govern the creation or establishment of airport hazards within an airport hazard area surrounding an airport.
You said the word airport hazard. What do these words mean?
Airport hazard means any structure or tree or use of land which obstructs the airspace required for the flight of aircraft or which obstructs or interferes with the control or tracking and or data acquisition in the landing and taking off of flights at an airport.
Union Station hasn't changed a great deal. The ticket counter, the wooden benches, the signs on the wall, and even the last departure schedule are still there. But Union Station, like so many others across the country, is closed. Many others are closing almost daily. The reason being, the railroads say they cannot operate passenger service profitably. The Penn Central is a good example of that. Others say they are operating at a loss and they can't go on. Well, there's a proposition now before the Congress for the government to more or less take over passenger service. Secretary of Transportation John A. Volpe has proposed 16 different rail passenger routes crisscrossing the country, over which scheduled passenger trains would be operated by the National Rail Passenger Service Corporation, which has been authorized by public law. Now, Mr. Volpe says that all the railroads of the nation will be invited to participate in this program. He says it is to establish a viable rail passenger system which can be modernized and expanded in accordance with the need and prevent the abandonment of passenger lines in the United States. Now, you'll notice that this particular map has a line from Chicago to Houston. It doesn't mention the city of Dallas, but the Dallas Chamber of Commerce wants to be mentioned. They want Dallas included on that southern route from Chicago to Houston. Now, how would it be accomplished? Of course, the Dallas Chamber of Commerce says that if the rail is going to run from Chicago to Houston, then it certainly ought to run through Dallas. Take a look at this plan. Instead of taking the route on the right side through St. Louis, the Dallas Chamber of Commerce would like to see it come down the left line, that is through Kansas City and on to Dallas. Now, there's one problem with that. The Santa Fe is currently running a passenger run from Chicago to Houston, but it is via Gainesville and Fort Worth. That problem would have to be overcome before it could come on into Dallas as it used to in the old days. Then there are other problems that are developing. Dissatisfaction by congressmen who feel that their state or their particular district is being left out. Texas congressmen like Jake Pickle, Robert White, and others are unhappy about the lack of a trans-southwest route in Mr. Volpe's plan. Take a look at this slide, for instance. You notice the Washington to St. Louis route drops on down to Dallas and then goes west to Los Angeles. It would be nice if they could have that, but then why can't then Mr. Magnuson of Washington State have a north-south route up along the west coast? And if Mr. Magnuson can have that, why can't every senator or representative or chamber of commerce have every route they've always had? Well, it's the problem. The present routes are all going broke. Let's go back to what Mr. Volpe says in the first place. What we have to do is start all over with the very basics and then open up new routes as demands require. What about these trains? Will they ever run through Dallas Union Station again? Well, the Dallas Chamber of Commerce would certainly like to see it happen, but economically, well, it really isn't feasible. This building needs $500,000 work done on it to put it back into condition. Maybe someday you'll see the trains run through Dallas again, but I suggest it will be at a smaller, newer, more economically constructed substation somewhere else in the city. You just may see passenger service through this city again, and if you do, will you use it? This is Jim Mitchell, Channel 8 News. But this train, like so many passenger trains today, it just won't move.
Operator. All right. All right.
Okay, sir, what number? All right.
There are indications that the Fort Worth City Council is inclined to grant a telephone rate increase, which will amount to an overall increase of just under 7%. This would be in line with the increase granted the telephone company in Dallas after several months of stormy City Council debate. The telephone company in Fort Worth has filed for an increase of 11.8%, saying it needs another $4 million a year because of inflation. Division Manager Bill Surratt of Southwestern Bell Telephone Company in Fort Worth told me earlier today that the abolition of certain toll rates and the installation of new types of metro dialing equipment and an overall increased equipment cost were factors in the decision to ask for the increase. Surratt stated that the last overall hike in Fort Worth phone rates was in 1953. I do not mean in any way to imply that the City Council has prejudged the issue before next Monday's council hearing. In all fairness, I must say that my sources lead me to believe that sentiment toward the compromise figure of just under 7% appears to be gaining council momentum.
Controversy has surrounded this $21.5 million career development center from the very beginning. In fact, there was quite a hassle over whether it should even be built or not. Next, it was where should it be located, how much should be spent on it, what kind of curriculum should there be. Now that it's nearly complete and expected to be put into operation sometime next year, the problem was, how should it be operated? The school board said, we want business to get involved. In fact, we want the Chamber of Commerce to manage it. Today, the Chamber of Commerce said, no, we will not manage it, but we can serve the school board's purpose by being advisors. I asked Chairman Warren Woodward what things the Chamber of Commerce can do.
Well, first of all, job placement after they graduate. They want us to assist in this problem of proper job placement. That's one thing. There's a wealth of input data that needs to be gathered and submitted. For example, we don't want to be turning out lumberjacks when what we really need is electronic technicians. And this takes a lot of research. We have a fine research department, and we'll do this. We'll do the input data. They want us to serve on advisory committees with other citizens of the community to make sure that all elements of the community are represented. They wanted us to make sure that the curriculum best fit the needs of the business community and the laboring force. And all of these things we felt we could do better in our role of advisors. And that's the basis of the decision.
School Board President Dr. Marvin Berkeley said he's disappointed in the Chamber of Commerce decision, but that the school board will continue to look for some outside management firm for the Career Development Center. And it's expected that commercial operation of a public school within itself may provide more controversy in the future. This is Roger McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move.
We have at this time considered all plans that are presently being worked on. However, we have found nothing yet that is feasible from an economic standpoint other than sanitary landfills. We have talked with people who are well versed in this profession. We know that pyrolysis and other methods are some years off from an economic standpoint.
Our primary problem was to educate and inform the American people, and then, based on that foundation of awareness, ask the American people to act to gain the release of these men. That's a big challenge, to try to communicate with the whole country. That was our challenge. Murphy and his team came up with the idea of the Christmas trip. Prior to that time, we'd gone to one of the largest advertising agencies in the world. They said it would take 3 years to focus the attention of the American people on just these handful of men. It was done last Christmas, not only the attention of the nation, but the attention of the world. Since last Christmas, we've been asking the American people to act. And again and again and again, they've responded. The North Vietnamese are under very, very strong pressure on the prisoner issue now. It is an issue now. Pick up any magazine, pick up any newspaper. You'll find articles expressing deep concern about these men that a year ago nobody had thought about. So I would say that Murphy and his team have done a great, great job in the past year. Until we get the men, though, it's all work and effort.
Not 100%, but I guess I could say about 80%. I'll try to play because it means something coming back and trying to play against Dallas and where I went to school here in Dallas.
I read in Sports Illustrated about how you really have to keep moving to stay alive in the professional ranks. Would you talk about that a little
Well,
bit?
that's definitely right. I don't look like a professional player. I don't weigh as much as any professional ball player. I give away as much as 100 to 150 pounds a game. And I figure as long as I can stay moving, not getting hit solidly by any of those behemoths that are trying to get me, that I can play a little bit longer.
Well, you did all right against Dallas down in the Astrodome. Coach Landry remarked that he hoped you didn't do the same thing against them this time. You sent Otto Brown looking for a job. Now, who will be covering you tomorrow?
Well, primarily be Herb Adderley, Mel Renfro when we flip-flop and run to either side of the field. But it's not the idea of trying to send anybody to look for a job. It's just trying to give 110% and trying to do the best job that I know how.
Well, I think that the way our defense is playing is the real key to our success the last 4 weeks. And if they can keep shutting out people, we can still, we can beat anybody. And I think that our running game has been fantastic. I think the offensive line has been doing a great job protecting me. And, of course, we've been hitting some good passing plays. And with the great running of Garrison Thomas, we can beat anybody. And I think that, as again I said, if the defense keeps playing as well as they've been playing, there's no question in my mind that we can go all the way.
This is not just another ball game for you tomorrow, is it?
Well, Jerry, in a way it is. I mean, I can't get myself so involved in the thing that I just think individual, and I'm leading my team, and I'm just one of 11 men on the offense, and there's 11 men on defense, and we just got to all pull together and play Dallas a good ball game, and we owe it to ourselves, and we owe it to our coaches, and we owe it to our city, and that's what we're going to try to do.